Zoe Franklin is the Lib Dem MP for Guildford, and here she is giving part of her maiden speech in the House of Commons.
It is with immense pride that I can say in July, on my third attempt, I was elected to represent the residents of Guildford constituency, the place that has been my home for the past 25 years. In my speech at the Count following my election, I made a commitment to my residents that I would be an MP for everyone in my constituency, including those whose voices for too long have gone unheard. And I want to reiterate that promise today. In June, we saw a golden tide of Liberal Democrat MPs, 72, elected across the country, 6 of us in Surrey. This victory is a message of change for our country, and I am very much looking forward to working with my fellow Lib Dem MPs, particularly on the issues of Send and Thames Water. As an MP, I am especially committed to addressing the cost of living crisis that is continuing to push too many into poverty.
Well, that was part of her maiden speech, and Zoe Franklin joins us now. Good morning to you.
Morning, James.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Have you got used to it yet?
Yes and no. I think yes in the sense of I'm now commuting regularly, and that's a groove you get back into quite easily when you've done it before. And no, because I've spent so long working to get here and working with the residents and campaigning, it's still kind of a pinch me moment of I'm actually the MP for Guildford.
All right, we talked, we had one of your Lib Dem colleagues on last week, Chris Coughlin, and he was talking about, yes, it's easy to get lost in the place. There's the whole ritual of, and I described it a bit like being in church with the nodding and all of that, getting everyone's names right. Have you tripped up at all on that?
I haven't yet tripped up on the kind of in the chamber procedure, but I can completely relate to Chris's comment about getting lost. I have to go the same way to all the places I go to. I have like a little route that I always go. Then I don't get lost. If I go off piste, I'm never going to make it.
You wanted to be an MP for an awful long time. Has it lived up to its expectations yet?
Yes. So my reason for wanting to be MP was so that I could help the communities across Guildford, and I can already see actually the difference I can potentially make by being an MP. And that's both in the very practical sense of helping people with issues they're experiencing here in Guildford, whether that's they are having issues with problematic neighbours or health issues or SEND education issues, which we've obviously, I know Chris talked about a lot. But also there's a lot that I can do as MP in Westminster to highlight the issues facing Guildford and our villages in the chamber and get the government to act. It's
weird, isn't it, being in, not the party in power. Does that give a frustration or not?
Actually, no. I feel optimistic about the Labour government. That's not to say that I won't be alongside my Lib Dem colleagues really kind of keeping a close eye for things where I think you need to do better here. But I do feel a sense of optimism. We've had good and the right noises on some issues. We also this week had the vote on the winter fuel allowance. That I think is a big mistake from Labour. And we've been very clear as Lib Dems that that is a mistake from the Labour government, and we voted against that earlier this week. But yeah, I can feel actually there are ways that I, as an MP in opposition, can still make a huge difference. There are lots of things that people don't see behind the scenes where MPs actually work together in order to get outcomes that are positive for the whole country.
You've got 6 Lib Dem colleagues. We've got 6 Lib Dems, 6 Conservatives. And how's that feel having... Will that help with some of your local campaigns, really? Yeah, so, I mean, I love the fact that I have 5 other Liberal Democrat colleagues. I mean, going into this election, we were hoping perhaps 2 or 3. And obviously the Liberal Democrats across the country did exceptionally well, with the largest we've ever been in terms of the size of our MPs representation across the country. But being able to have colleagues to work together with is really powerful. It means that your voice is amplified. We're already working together on issues such as the challenges we have here in Surrey in relation to Thames Water. We're also talking a lot about actually how we can support residents across Surrey, again, on special educational needs issues. That is one of the most distressing things we've had in our inboxes. Right. And has that surprised you, or did you know about that before? So we all knew there was a problem with special educational needs provision in Surrey,
but we have been shocked by the severity. Certainly my own family, many decades ago, went through the experience of trying to get support for a family member with special educational needs, and it was challenging then. And you would expect in the passage of time for things to improve, and they haven't. They've got worse. And you now have, I've lost track of the number of emails I've had from families saying my child has been out of school for a long period of time. I can't get a place. That there's not the right placement in my local area for my child to go to, and so many other issues relating to that. And it's really upsetting.
And as an MP, what can you actually do?
So we're doing a couple of things. There's obviously the national level. There is a recognition in Parliament that, and the government, I'm pleased to say, has acknowledged there is a national issue around SEND provision. But locally, what we can do is challenge, but also work with the county council. I'm talking to not only parents, but also local organisations that work to support young people and their families with SEND needs. And yeah, we're kind of looking to gather information, gather evidence, help Surrey to change, but also get the government to implement both the funding, but also the changes I think that are needed in legislation to make that provision better.
The world has changed for an MP. From what we've been told, it's all new to you, but with social media, people can contact you directly, and your colleague Chris saying that he's getting so many emails every day, and people want a response. They email you, they want a response, and how difficult is it for you to, obviously clearly get help with it, but to actually know that you don't let anything slip through the net? Yeah,
so I think one of the challenges that has been the hardest thing is when you become an MP, it's just you. I'm not sure if many people are aware that the office of the previous MP doesn't pass over to you. It is just you. So you need to start by setting up a team. And obviously you work in a world where people have notice periods and things like that, good things like that. So I'm getting to a point where I have got staff now starting who are supporting me with my casework. So what I've sort of been saying to residents has been that I'm really sorry if I don't respond in the time I would like to have done or you would expect from me. But this is why. It's building a team. And I'm responding to the most urgent issues. So things like special educational needs issues, housing problems, visa, health issues. And we're sort of playing catch up now. And there's been a big flurry of activity in my office this week where we've really been trying to make sure, because we had a few more volunteer hours, to get through the kind of the ones that weren't in that initial category of high not importance is the wrong word, but high urgency. Yeah. So people will be able to expect to see a much faster turnaround from me going forward.
And I guess it's the same for every MP in every
Absolutely.
party, unless they've been re-elected, and that makes sense. I want to talk about Thames Water. We'll do that in a moment, and we'll also talk about maybe something that you've discovered that you didn't know, either about Parliament or even about this area, that something's going on. BBC Radio Surrey in the hot seat with me right now, Zoe Franklin, who's the Liberal Democrat, the new MP for Guildford. Now, how many times was it you tried to be MP?
This is my third time of running.
How disappointing is it when you don't do it?
It's really hard. So in 2017, I was almost certain that I wouldn't win. The local picture wasn't right, the national picture wasn't right. 2019, that was really challenging because nationally we'd had all the feels that suggested we could do it. Locally, it was a real sense of this could be the time, and then we were only 3,000 votes short. That was hard. Because there's a lot of expectation from people, and people really were hoping that, not just my team, but actually people across the constituency really hoped I would win, and I didn't. But my team, my family were just so supportive and encouraging, and so picked myself up, dusted myself, and said, one more.
One more, and here you are.
And here I am.
Let's talk about Thames Water. You've mentioned them a few times, and how many emails are you getting about them?
Actually, I haven't had very many, but I think that's because people know that I'm already working on this issue. It's something that I've talked a lot about over the last, 4 years or so, and the fact that there's this double whammy here in Guildford and across Surrey, but particularly in Guildford, we have this double whammy of not only have we got sewage flowing into the River Wey, but we also have real problems with our water infrastructure. So, I mean, most people will know that in last year, November, some areas, including where I live, went 11 days without water. And it's the 20s. Why do we have the situation? So we are collectively, as the Surrey Lib Dem MPs, we have a meeting coming up very soon with Thames Water to talk through some of these issues, and I will meet separately about the Guildford infrastructure element.
How partisan is it now? If you, with your Conservative MPs, you're all Surrey MPs, you all represent the area. Is there much collaboration on that front yet?
So we haven't had a collective sit down, but certainly I'm on the same corridor as one of the other Surrey MPs, and we've had a good little chat and kind of connected. And we're there because we want the best for our residents, and actually the issues that you experience in your constituency actually don't stop at the borders of your constituency. They go right across Surrey and the country. So where there are things where I need to work with colleagues from any party, I'm absolutely up for that, because my goal is to make things better for residents.
And how do you judge whether you have?
So I think there's some things where you can really tangibly see that you've been able to resolve an issue. So using the Thames Water example, if we see the levels of awful things going into our rivers go down, that says we've done something right and we've been able to help achieve that. And that is going to be a challenging thing, because obviously it's a national problem, and there's legislation that needs to happen, and water companies, all of them, need to step up on this. But then there are also other reasons why we have problems with pollution in our rivers. There are other things which are less visible, but we and the team and I will know about them. So every single individual that we help to find a way forward to the problem they're experiencing, that is, in dirty commas, a win. But other people won't see that. But I know that we've been able to help. And there will always be situations where actually you don't get the outcome you're looking for, and perhaps the resident is looking for. But the important thing is that you've tried to get there, you've walked the journey, you've done everything you can, and you can say, okay, well, we didn't quite get there, but we have at least done everything we can to try and solve it.
So hang on in there. We'll get back with some more questions for you. Our hot seat today, the Liberal Democrat MP for Guildford, newly elected Zoe Franklin. And I tell you what, if at first you don't succeed, try, and try again.
100%.
100%. Yeah. What have you learned out of that whole process, really?
Resilience, in the sense that, as you say, I've tried 3 times to get here. I really believed we could do it, and I really believed that Guildford was ready to have a Lib Dem MP again, because we had one between 2001 and 2005. I learned a lot about myself personally. I've grown a lot. I'm still me, but equally I've become much more confident in terms of having these kinds of conversations, going into situations and just speaking to people. And I've been able to become more myself, kind of that close that gap between the person you are when you're the candidate and who you are in real life. And I would like to think, and certainly the person to ask is probably my husband, is, am I the same person in public as I am with my family? And I would say, yeah, I am. I try really hard to be authentically me.
Who's treating you differently now you're an MP?
Actually, it's a strange mix. I think some of the weirdest things are getting used to the level of... It's obviously right that you're respected as an MP, but I still find it a little bit strange that just a lovely example but it felt weird, where in Parliament we had some training, were given lunch and tea afterwards. I went to pour my own tea, as did many of my Lib Dem colleagues, and the staff were like, "Oh no,
do that.
You can't pour your tea."
Oh really?
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also the other thing as well, don't break the protocol, I suppose, is one of the fascinating things. We've been talking about what's working, what's in your inbox, and has something come to light that you knew nothing about?
There's always new things coming up around the constituency. So there's been a feel that there's probably something brewing here, and it's really raised the profile of it with me. So some of the health provision challenges have really come home to me as people have talked about their own challenges getting a consultant's appointment, which then doesn't get cancelled. That's one of the things I see a lot, is they've been waiting for very long times for a particular treatment, but the cancellations keep coming. And obviously that's not just problematic in terms of that immediate health issue, but it's also not great for mental health. It has an impact upon their ability to work, all the different things. But also it's also raised, my inbox shows me actually the variety of issues people in Guildford are really passionate about. And I love the fact that Guildford residents care so much, both about Guildford, but also about the bigger national issues, which we're talking about in Westminster as well.
Let's talk about, what advice would you give to somebody listening to this now who's maybe not one of your constituents, but thinking about maybe they have a new MP. We've got a lot of new MPs of various colours in this area. What should they do? Like social media, maybe following people and that kind of stuff? So,
I think one of the things is not everyone is aware of who their MP is or who their councillor is. And I'd really encourage everyone to kind of go, I think They Work For You. There's a website where you can put in your postcode, find out who your MP is. And I encourage people to just go and follow them on social media, because it will give you a flavour of who they are and what they're doing. And then you can have the opportunity to go, actually, they're not talking about this thing that's really important to me and my community. They're not talking about this issue that we're experiencing. And you can then get in touch with them and go, look, come and visit, come and learn about this issue. Write to them and just explain the problem. As MPs, we are there to serve. We all want to help our communities. And sometimes, we just simply can't be everywhere all of the time. So we need residents to highlight particular problems to us, and we will then work to resolve them. The one thing I would ask at the moment is that, please be generous with us in the fact that we're trying to get up to speed very, very quickly. We might not be as fast as we might like to be in replies.
And family-wise, how's this affected you? And you mentioned you're married. Have you got children? I don't know the story.
So I've got two mid to late teenagers. In fact, my oldest was 10 months old when I first got elected as a councillor. So my family, it's fairly normal. And I always joke about the fact that my kids thought it was perfectly normal that mum's face was on all these leaflets and she knocked on doors in her spare time until they got to secondary school. And then they're like, oh, this isn't normal. But the family's been amazing. It's been a journey together. They're so supportive of me. Obviously,
are they political people or not, do you think?
My husband is. So I got into politics because of him. He was going to stand for council, but then didn't. And look where it took us. My children are interested and sometimes not. They're teenagers. They've got other things on their minds. But we have a laugh and a joke about the weird things that Mum does. But it has fundamentally changed the way our life works, but the family have been brilliant. And
in many ways, having young people in your life is a really good thing for just opening your mind to what's going on at their level, I guess.
Yeah, and certainly particularly my oldest, has highlighted a number of issues to me that are impacting younger people that weren't even on my radar.
Right, okay. So it starts at home.
Yeah.
It does. Good seeing you, Zoe. Where are you off to? What are you doing today? This is Constituency Day.
Yeah, so I've got another interview with a different media outlet later today. I know, other media outlets do exist. But it's always a pleasure to be with you, James. And then later on, I've got a couple of meetings out and about in the constituency, people just kind of highlighting different things that are of concern to their communities.
Well, look, good to see you. We come in again and tell us what's going on, because we'll tell you, you can tell us.
I'd love to.
It's communication. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate that.
Pleasure.
That's the new Liberal Democrat MP for Guildford, Zoe Franklin, on BBC Radio Surrey.